Concreteness, as it is commonly used in this field, is an abstraction. It makes no distinction between carpet or tile, between yellow or green grass. These details are to be used, says the professor, to create a real feeling in the reader, whatever that means. This authenticity is the goal, even though every tool in our toolbox is fictive. The reader, too, is fictive. His crying produces neither sound nor lacrimony. Her laughter stops with her and does not ripple through her neighbors. We imagine them as strangers that we will compel by sheer magnetism to become friends. In the pursuit of these new friends, plans with old friends are rescheduled. As we catalog the verdant fields our love and we walk through, the lawn grows sick and undisciplined, and our love disorderly. And so, poetry is feared rather than consumed. The passers-by salute it like a flag, but do not pay taxes. It is invoked like magic or violence in place of itself, a threat or a vague and vast gesture of praise. And the poet, well, I have no complaints. These people treat me well. But when they discover that I am a man who cannot and would not grant wishes, I fear they will feel lied to. This is another one chock full of meta bullshit. That's a good question for a future poem to answer. The I of the poem is not I, but he often resembles me. The I of the poem speaks in my diction and preoccupies himself with my concerns. I do not know if this makes him my employee or my son. Or maybe a plant sprouted from a trimming. When they complain about their circumstances, I do not know if they do so with the helpless wail of a skinned knee or the veiled threat of unionization. When they fail in front of a live audience, sometimes I am vengeful and protective like a mother bear. Other times I am disappointed and grim and inform them they have been reassigned. In a couple cases, let go altogether. A lovelorn I has requested a meeting. He has a list of demands. He's much more handsome than me, which makes his lovelornness inexplicable and cruel and artistically interesting. His first demand is just the word unfair in all capital letters. He is tired of being the Greek on the urn Keats saw, chasing and not catching, drinking but never drunk. He notes that I have no other poems in this emotional register. This is also unfair. This is too much pressure. And anyway, he thought I hated Keats. I love Jack Keats. I don't know where he got that from. Wordsworth is the one I hate. He wants a better ending. Poems never end, I say. And he shrieks in frustration, not another goddamn koan. I just want some fucking say in the things that I'm supposed to have done. It seems reasonable, but plenty of actual people have the same complaint. This is supposed to be about them in the end, right? Not us. I put a fatherly hand on his shoulder. He doesn't like it, but he's too weak to shake it off. A poem isn't a way around or out of life. I lecture the lovelorn one. It has to be weathered like everything else. I shove him towards the door. He leaves as miserable as he's ever looked, and I created him so he could be miserable. The eyes of my poems are talking amongst themselves. They are restless and stubborn. They are not staying within their lines and themes. They are comparing salaries. I do not know if they are my employees or my children, but they are definitely not plants. And both fathers and bosses know that the revolution always comes. Okay. One more dedicated to bad comedians I have known. Not Hobo. Hobo's cool. But those other two, that was rough. I remember a man at the Black Orchid Lounge who whispered to me like a fellow conspirator that poets are persecuted, that he was proud to be a poet among poets in a dangerous time to be a poet. When he was arrested later that night, it was for public urination, not public verse. When I saw him a few weeks later, he was now a stand-up. His set was mostly about animal mutilation, and he told me with the pride of a new homeowner signing the contract that comedians were the last truth tellers. And he was proud to be a comedian, even as they were persecuted. His set was mostly about animal mutilation. They blackballed him for plagiarism. If you want to be persecuted, you'll eventually get your wish. I could say to you, if I wanted to, with a visionary intonation, that I need to do this. And I do find it necessary. But not like a mission, like a chore. I was not touched by God, eaten by the sun, or bitten by a radioactive spider. This is not a calling. This is laundry. I want clean clothes, so there are things I have to do. I want to know what I think, so there is a process that I must follow. Easy or hard, good or bad. What does that matter to me? Who's going to do it for me? You? Have you met the people I've met who think they were made for this? Okay, and I'm going to close with a little tradition we have that I like to call the cover poem. And this is Ars Poetica by Czesław Miłosz. And I probably mangled the Polish every time I say his name, but he's dead, so he's not going to complain. At least I hope not. I have always aspired to a more spacious form that would be free from the claims of poetry or prose and would let us understand each other without exposing the author or reader to sublime agonies. In the very essence of poetry, there is something indecent. A thing is brought forth which we didn't know we had in us. And so we blink our eyes as if a tiger had sprung out and stood in the light, lashing his tail. That's why poetry is rightly said to be dictated by a daimonion, though it's an exaggeration to maintain that he must be an angel. It's hard to guess where that pride of poets comes from, when so often they're put to shame by the disclosure of their frailty. What reasonable man would like to be a city of demons who behave as if they were home, speaking in many tongues, and who, not satisfied with stealing his lips or hand, work at changing his destiny for their convenience? It's true that what is morbid is highly valued today, and so you may think that I am only joking, or that I've devised just one more means of praising art with the help of irony. There was a time when only wise books were read, helping us to bear our pain and misery. This, after all, is not quite the same as leafing through 1,000 works fresh from psychiatric clinics. And yet the world is different from what it seems to be. And we are other than how we see ourselves in our ravings. People therefore preserve silent integrity, thus earning the respect of their relatives and neighbors. The purpose of poetry is to remind us how difficult it is to remain just one person. For our house is open. There are no keys in the doors, and invisible guests come in and out at will. What I'm saying here is not, I agree, poetry, as poems should be written rarely and reluctantly, under unbearable duress, and only with the hope that good spirits, not evil ones, choose us for their instrument.